I realized that now I have time, but I don't have money. And if I take the career path, I will have money, but I won't have time. And I decided I think it's easier to deal with the money issue than with the time issue.
Power to Live More with Joe Dodds.
Welcome to the Power to Live More podcast, all about productivity, organisation, well-being, energy and resilience. I'm Jo Dodds, and I started this show to enable interesting people to share their stories about how they use their power to live more, and by that I mean to do the stuff that they want to do more than the stuff that they need to or should do. It's about creating a life for yourself where you have the energy, health and space to be happy and fulfilled, spending your time as you'd like, whether that be at work, home or somewhere else entirely. That's your choice.
Hello, my name is Ellie Dodds and I'm co-presenter. And today Jo is interviewing Esther Jacobs. Esther was introduced to us by Jan Touton from show number 124. They call her the No Excuses Lady because she gets things done, whatever the circumstances. Uncertainty has become her comfort zone. She's raised 16 million euros for charities, got knighted by the Dutch Queen, participated in the European Survivor TV show, gave more than 1,000 keynotes and 2 TEDx speeches, written 26 books, and has travelled to over 100 countries. Yet she got fired from her home country for not staying enough nights in her own house and now officially does not exist. Esther's secrets? Focus only on the things you can influence. Work with what you have. Find and seize opportunities like an entrepreneur. Take control to make things happen in your business and your life. Today. No excuses. Back to the studio.
Today I'm interviewing Esther Jacobs, who's a speaker, author and digital nomad and is known as the No Excuses Lady. So I'm looking forward to finding out more about that today. So welcome, Esther. Thanks for joining me.
Hi, nice to be here.
It's great, isn't it? We had a bit of a digital nomad issue 2 weeks ago, didn't we, with internet connection. So it made me feel better after my weeks in the caravan where things were going a bit pear-shaped. You were in a French castle, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, that's correct. Internet is always a challenge, but especially if you're in France, in the ruins of a castle that they've turned into an Airbnb, and the connection there was horrible. And now I'm in Amsterdam, and it should be better. So
Lovely. So a true digital nomad, apart from there was less of the digital going on in the France bit.
Yes, when you leave out the digital, it suddenly becomes very nomadic.
Yes, yeah. So tell us more about who you are and what you do, and also where you usually do it or where you have done it from.
Well, I'm originally from the Netherlands, and the Netherlands is still my basis. I mean, it's a great airport to have stopovers, and I have friends and clients and followers here. But I've always had a big interest in traveling. I've been to over 100 countries. And I've never been employed in the traditional sense. I've always been an entrepreneur. So I've always had the freedom to work when and where and with whom I wanted to. So I'm mainly a public speaker. I've given over 1,000 keynotes all over the world and 2 TEDx talks. And I'm also an author, because storytelling you can do on stage or you can do it in a book or on social media. So I'm an author and co-author of 26 books. And one of the things I do is I help people to write their book in a week. There are so many stories out there that are worth to be shared, and people get stuck when they start writing their book the traditional way, and then they have to go back and rewrite, and then some stories never get told. And I advise them to start at the end, to start with the back cover of the book, because that's your marketing material, it's your structure, and it helps you to create an outline and then write your book without getting stuck. So that's one of the things I do. I also organize some other retreats, and basically I'm just using my own life and my own experiences to inspire and motivate others to chase their dreams.
Lovely. And so where do you usually work now, or is there not a usual?
There is not a usual. It used to be the Netherlands. I had a house in the Netherlands, and I did most of my projects from there, but I was only there a few months a year. And I actually got fired from the Netherlands by the government, saying that if you don't sleep in a place for 4 months a year, you're not allowed to register there. Even when it's your own house and when you pay taxes and you don't do anything wrong. And it was so weird. Even the ministers had 3 weeks of meetings on my case a few years ago. And they concluded that this law is not meant for people like me. But technically, the city applied it correctly. So there was nothing they could do. I got deregistered from my own house. So I lost my voting rights, my pension, my passport. My company got deregistered. I lost my health insurance, my right to social security. And because my company got deregistered from the Chamber of Commerce, I also lost my bank account and my phone plan was not renewed. So it was quite hectic. And weird enough, there was only one organization that kept maintaining, Miss Jacobs, you are and will always be a cherished citizen of the Netherlands. And that was, of course, the tax service. It was so ridiculous. I had to pay taxes, but I had no more rights. So I paid Social Security premiums, but I had no right to Social Security or a pension. And it took me another 3 years to finally reach an agreement with them that they also came to the conclusion that I don't live in the Netherlands and I don't live anywhere else. So ever since, for the past 6 years, I officially don't exist. I'm not registered anywhere. I don't pay taxes. I have no rights. If I die somewhere in the world, nobody has any idea where to repatriate me. So it has some challenges, but it also has a lot of freedom. And I don't have to do any admin. I don't have to keep any lists of hours or kilometers or receipts or whatever. So I feel very free. But every now and then, whenever I have an interaction with the system, I still get a lot of problems with the bureaucracy. To renew my passport, I have to go to a special window in The Hague for homeless people. When I lost my driver's license, there was no way I could get a new driver's license, not even if I took the test again or registered myself again for a few weeks, because everybody requires proof that you're in the country for 180 days a year. And I travel so much. I'm in the Netherlands like 3 months a year, and then there's no other place where I spend 3 months a year. So you tell me, where do I live? Where do I pay taxes? Who am I?
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's just such an amazing story, and makes, I was going to say, complete sense. That I don't mean that in terms of it doesn't seem sensible as far as the way everyone's treated you, but you can see why you've ended up with them saying what they've said, because I think you said at the beginning, that it sort of ticked all the boxes to say that that's how it should be. But also,
I think it's an example of how times change and of course circumstances change, but our systems, be it government, banking, registration, whatever, they are so slow, and they're based on the old idea that everybody lives in one place, which used to be the case. And if you didn't live in one place, you moved to another country, then you lived there. And nowadays, with cheap tickets and good Wi-Fi all over the world, there is no need to stay in one place. So there's many more people like me, location-independent entrepreneurs or digital nomads, who feel free to move around the world and work from anywhere and don't have obligations, don't have fixed expenses, which has a lot of advantages, but also disadvantages when you have to interact with the system.
Yeah, absolutely. Sonny, when you first started to talk, one of the questions I thought I would ask is how you ended up doing what you do, because a lot of people move into this sort of thing, but it sounds like you've been you, if you like, all along. But I sort of, it's almost, I mean, I will ask you why you do what you do, but it's almost not a question on the basis that you've just shown that security clearly isn't one of your drivers, because you sound really calm. I mean, I'm sure it was really difficult as you went through it and everything else, but I bet you were probably more frustrated with it than you were cast adrift from it, sort of thing, from what you're saying. Would that be fair?
Yeah, true. I was very frustrated. And at first, I tried to get back in the system. Just like anybody else, I was in my comfort zone and I wanted it to go back to the way it was. So I struggled and I was frustrated and I fought to go back to how it was. And at some point, I realized I'm the no excuses lady, right? I'm on stage. I tell people to turn situations around, to turn challenges into opportunities. But then I got back home and I was frustrated trying to get back into the system.
Yeah.
And at one point I realized, I have to apply it to my own life, because it's always more difficult, of course, to apply things to your own life.
Yes.
And that's how I turned things around, and I turned it into an opportunity. And now I help other people to sort things out with the system, to have more freedom in their life, to become location independent entrepreneurs. And so I've turned it into an asset. But your other question, how it all started, is also valid, because many of the people listening are probably in a regular job, whatever regular is, but they're employed and they have monthly income and they have monthly expenses. And the idea of quitting and still having those expenses and not having that income is very, very frightening.
Yeah.
And I understand the way I started is very different. After my studies, I didn't get a regular job, but I started doing little projects like market researches and, entrepreneuring. So I wasn't used to a salary and a mortgage and a car and, a phone plan that your company provides. And for me, every $100 that I made was $100. And if I made $300, I thought, hey, I can travel in South America for a month. So, of course, the numbers grew, the money that I made and the expenses that I had. But basically, I started with a student mentality. You have nothing, and anything you earn, you can use or spend. And if you start with the idea of, you need so much money to get through life, then there's a big pressure on your shoulders to make that much money as an entrepreneur when you start your own company. So I would advise people who are still on a regular job but who want to be an entrepreneur to start a side business. And once you get confidence that you can make money with your side business, you can start working maybe 1 day less or 2 days less. And then when you make the transfer, it's not so frightening.
Yes. Yeah. Very good point. So I want to ask you again why you do what you do, but let's just unpick a bit more of that. So you've already said you help people in the situation that you were in, and we can see where that's come from. You are a speaker, you are an author, and you help people to write books. How did those things come into what you do, given you started with, as you say, let's earn a bit of money and go traveling?
Right. It has a deeper layer to it. When I was about 16, I had a neighbor, a lady who was psychic, and she told me that the world was going to end. There was going to be some disaster, and she didn't know when or where or how, but at some point the world as we knew it was going to end. So she said, don't make long-term plans. Just enjoy what you can do right now. And that's why I chose not to go in a regular career path, which is 10 or 20 years, or to make any long-term plans. And I've actually always had this, well, I don't know if you call it short-term view, but not so strategic. I just take whatever comes on my path and I turn it into something. So everything I've done is relatively short-term and not strategic. And anything that happens to me, at first I resist it. I've been in a relationship with a playboy for 7 years, the biggest player of a Caribbean island. When this thing happened that I got fired from the Netherlands, I resisted it at first. I collected 16 million euros for charities when the euro was introduced. But when that happened, at first I just wanted to make money. And then I found out that everybody wants to make money. So I turned it around and I said, nobody's going to make any money. And all the money we raise is going to go towards charities. So anything that happens to me, I turn into a story and I share it on stage. And then people ask, why didn't you write a book about it? So I did. And then other people ask me, how do I write my book? So I help them to do that, or I help them to become speakers. Now I help them to have a more free life. So basically anything that happens to me, the things I learn, I would like to share. So I don't have a strategy. I don't have a bigger plan. I just go through life, try to turn things that happen into something productive or positive, and share that philosophy, the no excuses philosophy, with as many people as I can. And maybe I should have a long-term strategy, or maybe I should have like a deeper motivation, but this is just the way it is, and it works fine for me and the people around me. So I don't really think about it that much.
I love how that's come about, because a lot of people are going the other way, starting the other way. They start with, our life is about, I don't know, grow up, get married, have children, have a corporate job, get promoted. And then by the time they're, my sort of age, in their 50s, 40s and 50s, they're starting to think, oh, is that it? Should I really have done it like that? Or, let's be a bit more open and let's start to think about a different way of being. And then, it's not too late, because, it's perfectly possible to do all those things as well. But it's almost like a kickback against the structure that they sort of went along with, because we weren't told you could do anything different. Whereas almost you were given that information and took it and did something different straight away. Really interesting.
True. And it wasn't always easy, because I had no role model, I had no beaten path to follow, and I've done lots of stupid things, and but I've gotten to know myself really well, and I think that's my main asset. And I don't have a big title or money in the bank or a position in a big company, but I have my freedom and I know myself. And I think those two things are a great combination to have confidence that I can survive and thrive in any circumstance, whatever happens in the world, whatever happens to me. And I think a lot of people feel insecure when you take away their position or their possessions, and they're just left with themselves. And that's what often happens in a midlife crisis. They have everything that they thought they wanted or needed, and they still don't feel happy. And then they start to question themselves and the system. And one thing I remember when I finished my studies and I had the choice to become a junior product manager somewhere like all my peers, or to travel and do market research and become an entrepreneur, I realized that now I have time, but I don't have money. And if I take the career path, I will have money, but I won't have time. And I decided I think it's easier to deal with the money issue than with the time issue. So I go for the time that I have now, and I'll deal with the money. I'll find a way to deal with it. But if you go for the money and then you have to find the time somewhere, that proves to be really difficult. And I'm very glad I made that choice, which is already almost 30 years ago, because it's given me exactly what you said, a lot of experiences. And every day I have a choice. If I don't like something, I can change it. I'm responsible for my happiness. I'm also responsible if I don't like something. There's nobody to blame. I can't be the victim. I can't point at the government or a boss or a partner or whatever. So I feel and I am responsible and in control of my own life. And I think that's my biggest driver.
Mm-hmm. You were so ahead of your time to work out the time and money thing all that time ago. So what about the moniker, the No Excuses Lady? Where did that come from?
I think it started, actually a lot of things started with the first big project I did. Like I said, I collected 16 million euro for charity when the euro was introduced. So in 2002, every country in Europe, or a lot of countries in Europe, transitioned to the euro, and all the old currencies lost their value. So you could only use your German marks if you went to the German central bank to exchange them for euros. Yeah. And of course, people in the Netherlands, we travel a lot, and we have these jars with coins that we don't use, and we don't go to a central bank to exchange like $1 or $2. So I decided if I collect all this leftover money for charity, people donate something that has no value to them, but I can turn all those coins into euros for charity. And I knew nothing about charity, about marketing, about money, about the whole euro thing, about big projects. Basically, I was very naive and young, but I had this motivation to do it. And it took me a long time. Nobody knew me. I didn't know anybody. There was no internet yet. So it was so difficult. I don't even remember how I did it, but I just persevered. And that's why they started calling me the No Excuses Lady. Whoever had an excuse, it's not the right timing. We've already tried it. It doesn't work. You have no budget. You have no experience. You have no network. I proved them all wrong. Yeah. And it was a lot of hard work. but I used the experience, for example, my presentations. So first I talked about the project, Coins for Care, but after a while I upgraded the same story to how to reach big results with limited resources. And then I had access to a lot of companies who were in a crisis and who organized conferences, were looking for a speaker. So that's actually how I became a paid public speaker, and how my first books were published. Based on this project that I didn't make any money on, I didn't get paid. I think it took me 10 years of my life. The work was so hard, and it was very frustrating at times, but I did succeed in collecting this much money. And I've established myself as the no excuses lady. Like, I look innocent and young and naive, but I do get things done, and that has really helped me to in all the other things that I do.
Yes. Yeah. And it's interesting, especially with your self-awareness, to hear the comment, I don't really know how I did it because it was really hard. I when I first started my own business, I had local magazines, and I remember at one stage I had 8 magazines, and I often say I don't know how I went to print with 8 magazines. I just can't even remember what it was
really
like.
Complicated.
It's funny, isn't it? Yeah,
especially without all the tools that we have nowadays,
exactly.
The internet, but you did it somehow.
Yeah. Well, my first magazine, I was supposed to design it in Microsoft Publisher because that's the instructions I'd been given by this company that I'd bought these instructions from. And my printer said, oh, no, it'd be better if you could use Quark. Here's a copy. And I took it to France with no internet for a week and designed a 24-page magazine. And I again now look at that and think, trying to work out technology when you don't have the instructions, you haven't got Google to ask. It's virtually impossible. How did I do it?
And somehow we did it.
Yeah,
somehow
exactly. And then we blocked it out because it was obviously too traumatic. Oh, how funny.
Yeah, true. I wrote a book about it, so I would actually have to read my own book again to go through all those ups and downs again. But whenever I start reading, actually, I translated the book. I had it translated into English a few years ago. And then when I read the English translation to see if it was my own voice, I had to stop reading because I started crying like crazy. It was like somebody else was telling me this story because it was in a different language. And suddenly it hit me, all the disappointment, all the frustration. I was so naive, in the charity world, of course, is about a lot of money, and they were trying to get rid of me because I was doing everything faster and cheaper and differently, and they were afraid that they were going to be exposed, which they were. Yeah. And I was just crying and crying to finally feel again, what happened, and finally realize what happened, because of course now I'm a lot older and I can, see the bigger picture. And so it's very interesting to look at what you've done and to look at it later and see if the perspective has changed.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned books again, and at the beginning you talked about you help people to write books really quickly, which just sounds, I think, to most people, madness. Most people listening
writing a book is madness in itself. So if you do it, you better do it right.
So tell us a bit more about that, though. The whole concept of, what sort of are they? Are these very sort of story-focused books? Are they very factual focused? So, is there a style to them because they're done in a certain way?
Yeah, mostly they're non-fiction books, so either business books or biographies or autobiographies. So not the fiction books, because I think they require more time and a certain skill, to draft the characters and make a story outline. And of course, the back cover of a fiction book doesn't give you like the results of the book, but it's more triggering people to read it. A non-fiction book, however, a business book, a management book, personal development, what you do in a bookstore or online when you want to buy a book, you look at the cover and you look at the back cover, the blurb, and then you decide if you want to buy it. So that blurb, that back cover, better be really good. Explain the problem this book is going to solve, the results the reader will get from reading the book, the tone of voice, something about the author, why the author, why you can relate to the author, why the author has a special perspective on this. And actually, if you write this back cover first, you can approach a publisher, or you can start pre-selling your book, even though you haven't written it yet. You can, announce it and make it available to people. And the back cover gives you the structure for your book. If you say in 7 steps, I will teach you this, or with 25 examples or tips, then the structure of your book should be the 7 steps or the 25 tips.
Yep.
And when you have the structure, you can start putting bullet points in this document saying, oh, in this chapter, I want to mention this example. I want to include this photo. I want to share this story. And just those bullet points you distribute throughout the book. And when you're done, you can see if each chapter has what it needs, if one is much bigger than the other, if information is in the right place. And when you feel this is complete, then you can start writing, and you don't have to start writing on page 1, but you go with your energy. Maybe chapter 8 has an example that you really feel passionate about, and you just write that example. Then you take a bullet point from chapter 3 and turn it into a paragraph. So you can write even in 15 minutes when you're waiting for the bus, or while you're preparing food. You can write in little sprints instead of sitting down a whole day, blocking a whole day to write, what people try to do, and it hardly ever works. Plus, you follow your energy instead of, having to start on page 1 and then having to go back and forth and restructuring. So this method works for 99% of the people. I've already helped 400 entrepreneurs to write and publish their book. And for many of them, it establishes them as an expert, as a coach, as a speaker, as a consultant. Some use it as a free giveaway to share an important message they have. Some feel they have a gift, they have something special, they were very sick and they found a way to get better, or they had a life experience they want to share with others. And they distribute their books for free, their ebooks, to reach a bigger audience and to share their important message or gift with others. So there's many reasons to write a book, but the feeling of holding your own book in your hands is indescribable, really. And it's really possible. I've helped mothers, managers, ministers, there's so many stories out there. And you can think, oh, there's already a book about my topic, but that's not the case. Your story is unique, the way you share it, your personality, and there's always people who connect with your story specifically. So I would like to invite anybody who's listening to think, what is my story? And, in what way can I share it? Maybe you can record a video, maybe you can record audio, maybe you can write blogs or poems or write a book, but your story has something that can be an eye-opener to somebody else.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Lovely, thank you. So you talked about going where your energy is, and it's something that I work with a national movement around employee engagement, and we always say, because it's a lot of volunteers, that we've got to do the stuff where the energy is. So very similar sort of thing, and I think that's how I manage my time. I'm guessing similar with you. How do you get stuff done and know what you're doing on a daily, weekly, monthly basis?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm really into energy management. I've always been interested in energy management. Also for events where I speak, when you look at the program for a conference, you can already tell at what point everybody will be tired or bored. Or, and with a little change from listening to participating, you can already solve that. Or to have people walk from one space to the next to digest what they've just heard. But I'm always surprised how few people are aware of their own energy management, or within their organization, or within an event that they're organizing. And I've always noticed that at some points in the day, in the week, in the month, in the year, you have more energy than at other points, or different energy. There's even people who are saying that the different seasons are suitable for different types of work. Like I don't remember exactly, but the winter is for cocooning, digesting, then the spring is for planting seeds, and the summer is for executing things, and then autumn is for harvesting, and that's also for ideas and for business. And some people are morning people, some people are evening people. And the whole idea that you have to be in an office or behind your computer from 9 to 5 whoever came up with that, because it doesn't work for most people. You could be sitting behind your computer and not be productive at all, but spend hours behind your computer. Or you could be walking your dog and suddenly having this wonderful idea, and you sit down and write it in 5 minutes, and you have like a real added value or a real efficiency. So it's very interesting to observe yourself and others. And I'm struggling with energy management. I've always been, and I probably always will be. I had a car accident 6 years ago in the Caribbean. I had a whiplash, so my brain doesn't work the same way anymore as it used to before. Before, I could force myself to continue, like what I did with the charity project. I got up at 5 in the morning, worked until 12 in the evening for 3 years. And whenever I thought I couldn't do anymore, I would still continue. Of course, it's not good for your body, but you have this turbo button that you can press, and you always find this extra energy. And after the accident, my turbo button didn't work anymore. Even as I got better, the turbo button doesn't work anymore. And then you try to drink coffee, you try to eat sugar, try all kinds of things to get that energy back. But I realized that, in fact, the accident was a very good thing happening in my life, because I'm forced to make choices. I can't do everything, and I have to choose what is important and when I will do it. If I have 2 hours a day that my mind feels clear, if I use those 2 hours to go on Facebook or to book plane ticket, those 2 hours are gone. So in fact, I should use those 2 hours to be creative, to be productive. And then when I don't feel very clear, I can always book a plane ticket or go on social media or whatever.
Yeah.
So it forces me to be aware and to make choices.
Yes. Yeah. It's interesting.
But it's not easy. It's not easy. I'm so tired.
Oh, that's a local train. I don't know if you can hear that.
Yeah, it sounds like a real train from a cartoon.
It's at the bottom of our hill. I normally shut the window, and I forgot, and I was thinking, I probably should have shut the window, and then the train came. But it's a nice English sound. The whole energy piece, obviously awful that you've had to work it out because something happened that put you into that position, but so vital that we all understand that. So a great example to share as well, because as you say, we've got all these structures that people have sort of designed, other people have designed, whoever they are, that say this is how you must work. And as you've said, it doesn't work for most of us in the same way. And it's really about knowing ourselves and working out what works best. And I guess the advantage for those of us who work for ourselves and work from home or wherever, we can really do that. I think it's, in corporate, it's so much harder because people don't have the opportunity and people don't get it, do they?
No, it's true. And I've learned to question everything. So as a consultant, I would be very annoying. People would think I was very annoying because I enter a company and I start asking questions, and the answers are, well, we've always done it like this and it's just the way it is, or we've already tried that, it didn't work. But as an outsider, you look at things differently and you're allowed to ask those questions, and those questions can generate interesting insights. Yes. So people go to their office from 9 to 5 or from 8 to 7 or whatever the time is, and we think it's normal, but most people go to their office actually to answer emails, which you could do from home, or which you could do from a co-working space, or which you could do from a hammock on a beach in Thailand if you wanted to. So you should go to an office to collaborate, to actually meet your colleagues or your clients and to work with them. But you could also do that through a video call, for example. So this also relates to how you use your energy during the day, because you have different activities. You have creative time. You need to write, create a plan, create something. You have responsive, react to emails. You have to do calls. You have to work together with other people. And if you know which time of the day is most suitable for which activity, then you can make a plan for your day that's different from doing it by task or by client. Like today I'm working on this project, or today I'm only doing calls, or today I'm brainstorming with my team, or I only work with others in the afternoon because in the morning I use my creative energy to get things done. And it's different for everybody, and there's very different ways of looking at it. But I would like to invite everybody to have a look at it, to take notes. When do you feel you get energy from some activities, and when do you feel it drains you? When do you feel you get stuck? When are you productive? When do you feel happy? When do you feel in flow? And it can be the location you are, it can be the time of day, it can be the activity, it can be the people you're working with. There's so many factors, and the only one who can decide what works for you is you. Not your boss, not the government, not some productivity program or book. It's you. So become aware, take notes, and if it feels good, do more of it. If it doesn't feel good, find an alternative. That's how I learn, and that's how children learn. Trial and error.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
I'm actually writing a book about this now. Light your fire without the burnout. Energy management for passionate people. Because I realize if you have a boss who says you have to do something, you can be stressed and you can rebel against this boss. But if this boss is inside your own head and it's setting you deadlines and it's giving you motivation and it's pushing yourself, then it's very hard to resist or to rebel. And then you create stress inside yourself that you've created yourself. And I think it's possible to reach big, hairy goals without creating the stress, with having fun while doing it, learning while doing it, having time for other things. But you need a sustainable way of managing your energy, and not the turbo button I was talking about and living on reserve all the time.
Yes.
It's like driving your car with the fuel light blinking all the time, and then you stop just long enough to refuel it a little bit until the light goes off, it stops blinking, and then you're driving on reserve again instead of filling the entire tank and then being okay for a while. So this is okay for in emergencies, for deadlines or project or time in your life where it's necessary. But if you live your whole life like this, something is going to happen, something is going to snap.
Yes.
So if you care about what you're doing, find a sustainable way of managing your energy. Find a balance between energy in and energy out, between working with your head and working with your body, between being focused and relaxing, being rational, being creative. All those things sound very logical, but I find in my own life that I was much too rational. I was always in my head, I was always working, and all these other things had too little space. And I think only a balanced life can be sustainable for a longer time. And then you can get the results you want and keep on delivering those results.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So what about those days where it all goes horribly wrong and you have a terrible day? How do you deal with that? With no excuses, presumably.
It's horrible. And what you would love to do is just stay in bed and pull the cover over your head and wait for it all to go away. And sometimes there's no other solution than to do that and to acknowledge, okay, this day doesn't feel good, and just, watch Netflix and make something nice to eat and to drink for yourself, and then go to sleep early, and hopefully the next day will be better. What also helps is to get out into nature and to move your body. Actually, anything that gets stuck in your body will get a chance to get out and to be cleared. So you will have different energy the next day or at the end of the day. What I used to do is, when I didn't feel good, I would do horrible tasks like admin or cleaning or things that I didn't like anyway, thinking I feel horrible anyway. I'll just give myself something to do. And then when I feel a little bit better, at least I don't have the dishes in my kitchen, or I have these piles of receipts that I need to put into Excel. That worked for a while, but it's also constantly in the doing mode. Yeah. Even when I wasn't feeling good, I was still in the doing mode. So nowadays I prefer to do what I just said, to get out into nature, to allow this sentiment, to do something creative, just to change perspective and to change the energy completely. And that will rebalance, and then, you'll feel better and get back to do what you were doing. So also works different for everybody. But if you don't like the results that you're getting, change what you're doing. Otherwise, you keep getting the same results.
Yeah. What about those days where you get to live more? That's to do more of the things you want to do and less of the things you feel you should do or you have to do. What does one of those days look like? It's probably every day for you, I would imagine.
Yeah, I have very little structure, but still some days are better than other days. And what I really like is days with surprises. Like when I have no plans, I go out into the street, I meet an interesting person, or just a little present. I walk in a street that I know very well and I find this little cafe that I've never noticed, or I get an idea and I'm creative, or I help somebody. Or what happens to me every now and then is either whether I'm in the Netherlands or somewhere else in the world, I'm having a coffee somewhere, and then the waiter or somebody else comes up to me and says, "Are you Esther? Are you that digital nomad? Because of your book, I'm here. I sold everything I have. I have only 3 boxes left, and now I'm a waiter here in Thailand." And whenever that happens, it's really like an eye opener. People actually read my books and they actually take action, and it's a little gift from the universe. It makes me so happy, a conversation like that. It's really humbling.
Yes, yeah, I bet that's amazing. So thank you, Esther. It's been so good to interview you. Really, really interesting. Tell people how they can find out more about you and get in contact.
I think my website is the starting point to everything. I have a lot of blogs, free resources. I give away books every now and then. You can read about my retreats, workshops, whatever. My website is estherjacobs.info. So it's not .com or .nl, estherjacobs.info. And on social media, I'm also very active. And you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and usually it's Esther Jacobs or Esther Jacobs NL for the Netherlands. So it would be really nice if people would connect. You can ask questions. I'm always willing to help, share examples, record videos to answer questions, because I really would like everybody to find the freedom in their life, whether it's freedom to travel, freedom to chase your dreams, freedom to be more you. I think there's no excuse. Everybody should live their dream life, and I'm very happy to help if I can.
Brilliant. Thank you, Esther.
Thank you.
All this information is available in the show notes. If you go to powertolivemore.com/130, you'll find them there. Today I want to talk to you about procrastination and removing barriers to help you to avoid procrastinating. I've realised that I've been procrastinating on my podcast, and you may remember that a year or two ago, probably longer than that now, I was procrastinating on publishing the podcast because I didn't like writing the show notes. And so I had times when I didn't send the podcast out on a weekly basis because it was all getting backed up because I hadn't written the show notes. And so I basically found somebody to write the show notes for me, the lovely Dawn and her team at Lidwell Writing Services. And that took that issue away and actually freed me up to just get on and do what I wanted to do, which is publish the podcast. Well, I've noticed in recent weeks that although I plan to put the podcast out on a Friday, it rarely goes out on a Friday because of other things that crop up and the process and all that sort of thing. And I thought I needed to have a look at it because clearly there was a problem. So I needed to look at what that problem was. And I determined that actually the thing that holds me up every week is recording this bit. And this is what I call my outro. It's sometimes because I can't think what to talk about. It's other times because I record it about 55 times. Might be slightly exaggerating there. And it takes ages because of that. And so I identified that this was what was holding me up and decided to come up with a new plan. So earlier this week, I recorded 6 weeks worth of me saying,
All this information is available in the show notes if you like to go to Power to Live More and so on. And also the bit at the end that says, again, the show notes are at blah, blah, blah. So I've got all of those done now. So what I'm working on now is how to record this section and do it in advance over the next 4 weeks, or for the next 4 weeks, so that when it comes to editing the podcast on a Thursday, I can just add it all together because I've already recorded the sections and I just literally need to pull it together, which is the easy bit and not the bit that I've been procrastinating on. And so I intended to do that, and then just now tried to record the first of these outros so that I could build up a bank of them, as I've said, and it didn't go very well. And I decided that I need to take a step back and actually plan my content better for the next few weeks before I do those recordings, so that then I can just get on and do all of them in one go. So basically batch that recording work and make sure that it's all done. And then, as I said, all I'm doing then is pulling the bits together each week to get the podcast published. So my point is that if you've got something you're procrastinating on, what you need to do is have a think about the process and work out which part of the process is causing you issues and why it's causing you issues, and then look at how you can remove those issues by doing something different. So as I said, in this case with the podcast, it's about pre-recording sections so that they're done in advance, and I batch record them so that I sit down to do all that over the space of a few hours, rather than trying to do a sort of 20-minute session once a week when I'm in the middle of doing other things. So that's what will resolve the situation for me. What will you do to stop yourself procrastinating on whatever it is that you're procrastinating on? I'd love to hear some examples of how you've got over your procrastination by identifying the process, working out the bit that's getting you stuck, and looked at doing something different so that you're no longer stuck and therefore not procrastinating. So please do drop me a line, joe@powertolivemore.com, and share what you've been doing. I've been really busy this week adding new courses to my Power to Live More Calm membership site. You may remember that it's a site aimed at helping home-based coaches and consultants to be more successful whilst also getting to live more. And as you know, that means getting to do more of the things that you want to do and less of the things that you feel you should do or have to do. So I had an account with Teachable where I was hosting a couple of courses, and I'd moved the How to Simplify Your Life course over to the new membership site, and the intention was to close down the Teachable account. However, when I went to look at that last week, I realised that I had another course in there which was all about how to declutter your life. So on Friday, within the membership community, we decided to hold a Get It Done session in the afternoon. So it was a 2-hour session where we got together on Zoom at the beginning of that time and talked about what we were intending to achieve during the time. We then met up 45 minutes later to update where we were with the tasks and talk about what we were going to do for the last hour, and then we reconvened again at 4 o'clock to talk about where we'd got to, how much we'd achieved during our Get It Done session, and also to hold our weekly Power to Live More Calm call anyway. So we did a bit of catch up, and then I helped one of the members to look at Audacity, which is the tool that she's using to edit her new podcast, and it's the one that I use as well. So we talked through some of the routines that she can go through to get the audio together for her new podcast. So that was really exciting. And during the 2 hours, I actually transferred over one of the courses. So that was the How to Declutter course. And then I went to close down Teachable. I realised that actually there were 2 more courses in there that needed transferring across. So I've now got another course, How to Create Laser Focus. That's in the membership site as well, and also one about how to get stuff done. And last week I'd also added a new course already, which was all about WordPress security. So there's a varied list of content in the learning section of the membership site now to go along with the materials that are in there around currently goal setting and blogging. And as I said, we had our first Get It Done day on Friday, which worked really well. So if you're a home-based coach or consultant, or you know anybody who is, and you're looking for some support and community around improving the success of your business, but also around getting to live more, then please do go and check out powertolivemore.com/getcalm. So you can find out more. And as always, if you've got questions, then please do email me, joe@powertolivemore.com. And again, you can get to the show notes by going to powertolivemore.com/130. And we look forward to speaking to you next week.
Use your power to live more.